more time again. If you're just joining us or you were back from earlier, we start off by sharing. We have a big recycle bin full of stuff. You can see some items we have from our kitchen that's here too, because we've raided some different stuff from our house to be able to do what we're doing. You're going to need some soil today to make a gallon greenhouse as well. So go ahead and tell us.
My name's Ellie, and as you're getting on, like and share on Facebook, and you're part of the largest JMG group, and it's still growing.
Yeah, so still keep giving us comments on where you're signing in from. If you're an elementary student, we are happy that you're able to find us again. And we wanted to comment on the idea, as a part of being a Junior Master Gardener group, your job is to share and do things for other people. And so we wanted to remind people that if you haven't already had some type of a service project you've done with this JMG Facebook Live group, we want you to think about ideas and things you can do in the next few weeks. So one thing you do to share what you know is just share with somebody that maybe is in your family, maybe even a younger brother or sister you could share with.
And one thing you could do, as another example, is you could share 3 stanzas from the Plant Parts Rap page, and you can get all these lyrics at the website jmgkids.us/fblive.
So different ways to share: online, in your house, through the Plant Parts Rap. We're going to do a compilation video of a lot of you who've been a part of this group who are sharing stanzas of the rap. That would be great. Lisa, show them the URL real quickly. They could see how to get the lyrics for that Plant Parts Rap and where to submit it. Our email address is listed there. Our Gmail is listed. They could email it that way or just post it on Facebook. That would be great. So the other question that we asked was, what is a greenhouse? I don't know if anybody was able to comment last time before we lost our video, but the idea is, what is a greenhouse? We're going to talk about greenhouses today. What do you think it is? What do you think a greenhouse is?
And before we get started again, scroll up, like, and share on your Facebook.
Ellie wants you guys to share, because that's a way that she knows some of her friends have found out about it, just because we've been able to share ours as well. So back to our recycle bin today. We're going to get things out of the kitchen, and you're going to need a water jug, a milk jug like this, maybe some saran wrap, maybe a Ziploc bag, and also some soil. But before we really jump into how to make a gallon greenhouse, we wanted to talk about why we are in this section of the garden. And so if Lisa would kind of pan back to the side of this beautiful fence, it looks like a fence, doesn't it? And it has some cool lines growing. It makes it more beautiful. But one of the things we want to talk about today was, can things be used for something besides what maybe that they are intended for? The creative ways we could use something. So come to the side of this. This is just not a fence. It's also a way, as the 9th grader kid that created this idea developed it, it's a way to save his state from drought, because you can collect rainwater and reuse it. This is called a water fence. A 14-year-old developed this idea from California. And the idea is that you can have these tanks that are very thin, narrow ways to be able to store water. So most homes have roofs. Most of those roofs have gutters, and if there's fences nearby, that's a great way to be able to have water be stored and be able to conserve resources. So other ways you can use.
Pretty cool rainwater harvesting idea.
And this one is some cool numbers. If you are some math people, there are over 700 gallons being saved and stored in this little area of this fence. So it doesn't have to just be a fence. There's other ways you could use things that are already around you. Okay, so let's get started back over here. We talked about different ways you can use things that you already have access to. So has anybody commented on what a greenhouse is yet? What is a greenhouse? One of the things we talked about before is that a greenhouse is a place that can provide really ideal conditions for plants to be able to grow. So things like water and light and temperature and air are all a part of that greenhouse. And greenhouses are great because it's a great way for us to be able to provide the needs of plants that are growing. One of the cool things, Lisa, you can zoom back in on our plants that are here. We've seen some images that have these windows, the light's able to flow through, you're able to kind of protect the plants that are inside. You see the plants on the tables here. Here's kind of an older greenhouse, and here's a newer version. But one thing that's important is you're able to open up windows in a greenhouse, and there are fans, and there are ways to be able to make the temperature cooler and warmer. One thing we talked about on the way over here was a greenhouse effect. So what happens, Ellie, in a car? What's a greenhouse effect in a car?
For example, like if a car is sitting out in the sun and the windows are closed, what do you think would happen to that car? So it would get like hot over time. So whenever you get in the car after the windows have been closed for a while, you might be really hot at first.
So we need to know that because we need to make sure when we make our greenhouse for our plants that the plants don't get too hot. We don't want them to be in direct sunlight. We don't have ways to be able to have the airflow. So let's start in our greenhouse. Our first greenhouse idea is we're going to take a jug like this, and Ellie already started this for us. We're going to make a cut there.
You might need your parents' help for this.
Yeah, for that one. I'm going to cut it initially, and then we're going to have Ellie finish cutting around it to be able to create the container for our bottom of our greenhouse. So what's going to go inside the greenhouse? We're going to add our soil for our plants to grow in. And what did we talk about before on what the condition of the soil has to be? It's going to be good soil. It's going to be some potting soil, but do we want it to be super dry or super wet? And the answer is right in between. Plants like the soil to be moist enough for the roots to be able to grow into, for the water to be able to be absorbed. So Ellie's finishing this one up. There we go. So this is kind of cool. So Ellie, we're going to have you scoop some scoopfuls of soil inside that container. There's a scoop inside that bag. And we're going to use this as a base for our soil. And if you downloaded the lesson that comes with this, the easy thing to do, we can get this from our garden area, is a couple stakes that are in here. And we will fold in just some plastic wrap, some more kind of plastic over it, just to lay on top of it to be able to hold the moisture inside of our gallon greenhouse. So it's pretty easy to be able to do that. So we'll stop right there just for our example. We'll fill it up most of the top kind of close to the edge, and then we'll be able to use that as a plastic covering to kind of create that little environment for the greenhouse.
So be sure you keep these when you make them, because next week when we do our propagation lesson, you guys are going to be doing cuttings in your gallon greenhouse. So that's what we're going to use it for.
Next week is propagation. If you don't know what propagation is, we're going to show you how to take plants and take cuttings from those, and grow roots, and grow a copy of that plant. We're going to show you how to clone plants next week. And this house we're making today is going to be used to be able to store those. So the other one I wanted to share was even much simpler than this. If you'll hold this bag open, or actually I'll hold it open and you can get the soil in. We're just going to get a basic Ziploc bag, a sealable bag like this, and we're going to put about 3 inches of soil in the bottom. And we are going to have enough soil in here that we can put our cuttings in the bottom of this bag. So if you imagine about 3 inches worth of soil that's here, and we're going to have the soil be nice and moist. The cool thing about this is, we get more soil in there. I will example one. Pop open that cup over there, so you can get going. Is as this is filled with soil and the plants have some roots start to grow, we can also maintain the airflow by simply doing this. It's cool for it to be pretty humid inside here, but it's also important that we have a little bit of airflow to be able to allow the plants to be healthy. One more scoop for our example. This one, Ellie.
There we go.
So we're going to talk about this more next week, but once we have this plant growing, we'll put the cutting inside here. You'll be able to see through it. After a few weeks, you'll be able to have some roots growing in the bottom. It's kind of a cool way to be able to see in a very easy way. The important thing we're going to talk about next week too is you never want to have your greenhouse in direct sunlight. Even in a windowsill, we never really want it to be in direct sunlight. Always indirect light to make sure that the environment's going to be as perfect.
So either a gallon greenhouse or a Ziploc bag would work great.
Okay, so it's really easy to make a gallon greenhouse, so you have something to look forward to for next week's session. But coming back to what we started with, the idea of being able to use things from different ways of what they were intended, we want to come back to these cool milk jugs. Can you imagine? There's tons of things you can do with milk jugs and water jugs besides just drinking from them. So we saw one is making a gallon greenhouse. There's a couple more I wanted to share with you. If you have plants growing in pots, they need saucers sometimes for the drainage to come out. So cutting off the bottom portion of one, as you can see here, is a cool way to make a saucer out of some recycled material. How about the top part of this? What can this be used for? We have a lid that could be on there or not, but sometimes if you're in the northern part of the country, it may be a little bit early to put some things in the ground. This is a great thing to put on top of your plants to be able to protect them from those nights when it gets to be kind of cooler. It allows some of the sunlight to come in to heat the area, but also you can leave the lid off to be able to allow the heat to escape. Here's another cool one. It's kind of from the top as well. This is a great scoop. So if you're making
look at the cool way to use the handle, guys.
Another way to be able to use that for making a scoop. So Ellie's got a couple more she's going to share with you too.
This one is my favorite. So it's a bird feeder, like right there. So you can like cut it in half and then leave some down here so you can pour the bird food in. And then we just got an old hanger and we can attach this to the tree and hang it up. Put some bird food in it and let them enjoy it.
Creative ways you can cut apart a milk jug, a water jug.
And then this is some Miss Lisa's gloves, and we kind of cut it the same way, but maybe a little less. And we can put some of her more of her gloves inside of it. And it's a little glove carton that she can.
So a glove carton or a garden caddy. So if you have tags or a marker or a hand trail. It's a nice way to keep all your supplies together when you go out in the garden.
Stuff together. Let me show you a couple more. If you want to just make the hinge of this gallon greenhouse, that could be a way to kind of trap some of the moisture and protect it a little bit as well. You can make that be a hinge. But let me show you my favorite ones. I think these are so clever, Lisa. So look at this. What part of the milk container was this from? If we look, it's actually a part of the handle that was right here. But if you cut that this way with parent help, you have a nice scoop. That is this.
Yeah, Leanne said you could make the watering can have sprinkles in the top and use it as a milk jug watering can.
Okay, one more. This is probably my favorite because it's probably the most simple. Sometimes we put seeds in the ground or new plants. We want to be able to put markers of what those are. So these little stakes that we made from just cutting slits and put a little triangle at the bottom so it kind of inserts in the soil more easily is a good idea. And then I really love this one. A little piece of string or wrapping over here and cutting a little disc out and putting a label on it as well. Simple ways. There are just dozens of ways to use those plastic containers besides just being able to.
So in addition to your gallon greenhouses, if you guys come up with any tools or garden accessories out of milk jugs or other recyclables, we would love to see those. So share those with us.
Share those with us. So the hashtags for this week, JMG Kids FB Live is the one we've had for the entire series, but this week it's JMG Gallon Greenhouse for us to be able to see the work that you're doing. That's how you can share it. And don't forget to share your service project. JMG Kids Service is a service project.
And my challenge for you guys is to share like 3 stanzas from the Plant Hearts Wrap, and you can either email them or post them at the hashtag jmgkids.us/FBLive.
And if you want to email it, the email address is listed there along with these lyrics, juniormastergardener@gmail.com. We want to be able to have a compilation video featuring all of you that are part of our session.
You can like sing it and do some dance moves and have some props in it.
Have fun with it, be creative, make sure your volume is good for the video. We'll work to incorporate yours too. So that's what we have for you for today. We look forward to you next week on Tuesday. We're going to learn how to propagate, how to clone plants. So we'll see you next week.